I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
Welcome to Life Today Live. How are you doing? I mean, we're not even through January and the new year, and how are you? If you're feeling already a little done with the new year, a little tired, you may be facing a condition that we call burnout. And this is something, that we've talked about before, but it's something that you kind of need to check. Well, what is it? How do you know if you're facing it? How do you deal with it? We're going to talk about that today. And so I'm welcoming back someone who's been on the program several times, Dr. Gregory Jantz. And he's a mental health expert. He deals with people all the time. He puts out a lot of books, which are very helpful. And I like the fact that there's always a resource. So if you're like, okay, I need to dig into this, I need more information on this, well, he's probably got it for you. And his latest one is called Beyond Burnout: Regain Your Passion and Energy. And I know the older I get, the more energy is a little bit of a struggle at times, just from the physical standpoint. But if it becomes that battle in the mind, you need to know how to fight it and how to win it. We're going to talk about that today. Dr. Jantz, welcome back to the program. Good to see you again.
Oh, good to be with you. And burnout is something I know we all can relate to, and we'll describe what that means and how to get out of it.
Yeah, well, tell us, first of all, from a mental health standpoint, exactly how you define it.
Yes. Well, burnout is something all of us have had. And at the beginning of the year, you may feel like, oh, no, I'm not feeling great. And I want to look forward to this, but I'm not feeling it. So burnout is, I've been stressed out, but I just keep going. We all have stress, but it's been 6 months and I have been stressed out and I keep going. Now, burnout means I probably have some physical symptoms. I may have some aches and pains and some headaches, and I got tension in my gut. So burnout, I start to feel it. I literally start to feel it. My sleep is probably disruptive. I may have a hard time falling asleep. I may wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, like wide awake, but I'm in the middle of the night. So burnout also has a spiritual side. You feel like I'm in this desert spiritually. Things are just not, everything seems distant. So my relationships are affected when I'm in burnout. It's like I want to isolate. I get irritable with people. I've had enough. I just want to back away from people. That's burnout.
So it's different than just stress.
Yeah, we all have stress, and there's periods of stress that are tough and uncomfortable. But if you stay in chronic stress, where things are not changing, and you just keep going, then you hit the wall of burnout.
Okay. So I've noticed the relationship between, body, mind, and spirit. It's
yes.
something that we believe, obviously. But, it's interesting because so many of the physical issues are the result of stress, of the body releasing things to fight the stress or to fight a danger, fight or flight kind of thing, but that stay in a constant condition. And so the difficulty I think sometimes is to go, okay, where is the source of this, which is causing my burnout? Is it body, mind, spirit, or is it like this triangle that's like a circle in a sense? How do you know where
what's my source? Yeah. Well, if you've struggled with long-standing depression or long-standing anxiety, and there's been these issues and they're left unattended, well, it piles up over time, and we're experiencing a lot of stress, and you don't feel like yourself. The depression's not lifting, and so I say that because sometimes we need to go back and go, okay, what's at the root cause of this? What is the pattern in my life? And I keep stumbling over and over. What is that? So sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes I'm recycling a lot of old hurt. And that old hurt is creating depression, anxiety. I'm always stressed out. and then I live a lifestyle of burnout. Here's what's dangerous about living a lifestyle of burnout. Something eventually will break.
Hmm.
We get more inflammation in the body. We set ourselves up for potential disease process. So there's a physical price that we eventually will pay. And sometimes, you go to the doctor and you got all these symptoms, and it's like, well, it's not from any one thing. There's not a single diagnosis, but it's compounded stress over time.
A lot of doctors, not all of them, but a lot of doctors will simply go for the easy prescription.
Sure. Sure.
To deal with the physical. And I don't, I'm curious where you stand, but I don't, I can see some benefits sometimes in maybe knocking down a level of, well, I don't know, was it cortisol or whatever, something, to deal with the body, to allow you to deal with the others. But dependency on the chemicals to manage over time without dealing with the root issue, if it is bitterness or unforgiveness, especially those types of things, how do you attack this?
Yeah. Well, I would say our team here at the Center of Place of Hope tends to be very cautious with medication. And if anything, we see it as a bridge to help us just for a period of time. Yeah. There's reaches a point where a person, they're just not functioning, and you need a boost. Okay. But not a boost, but not a dependency. So I think if we keep thinking there's a magic pill and we're just keep looking for that magic pill, we're going to be disappointed. Right. We might have some temporary relief, but we've got to attend to the issues at hand. And so, a pill is not going to solve a person's burnout. It's not going to solve long-term depression. We see this very frequently, that people, I'm on 5 or 6 medications and nothing seems to be working. And that's the ultimate place that people end up.
Yeah, and the side effects I don't like, which is why anytime I am prescribed something because I need it, I'm like off, like painkillers and stuff after surgery. Like, I am off of those suckers as quick as I can be because of some of the side effects, and I don't
absolutely.
But so, how do you? For the person who's at home, who's not in your clinic, are there some basic steps they can take in the right direction, or do they just need to go see a mental health expert, a doctor, all the above? What's the recommendation in general?
Yes. Well, I think one of the first things we have to do is just acknowledge the reality that we're not doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes when we've been in chronic stress and now we're in burnout, it's because we've kind of denied what's going on and we just keep going. But now we're in our crash. And let me tell you, I had my crash, and I understand what this is like. And I know what it's like even to take about a year to just rebuild emotionally and deal with anger, fear, guilt, to deal with the physical side. I know it took me probably a year to really get back to where I needed to be. So the first thing I want us to do is get out of the denial and go, okay, something's not going well. And then I want you to have a journal or a notepad and just take about 15 minutes. Don't need to take a lot of time, but 15 minutes, and just write down really what are my 8 to 10 top stressors. What is and maybe I'm writing, oh, it's financial. Well, we'll dig in deeper on that. But what are my stressors? And you look at that list and you go, is it past? Is it past issues? Am I still struggling with trauma? Am I still living in regret because of a decision I made 10 years ago? But write them down, look at them, and go, okay, now some of these things I may need outside help to help me out and to put a program together. Yeah. If I haven't been to a doctor or had blood work done, I want to know, well, what's going on physically? So I want you to take some action steps. We see a lot of times our doctors here do blood work, and people may be low in vitamin D, or maybe there's some hormonal issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to know maybe there's a low thyroid. What physically could be contributing? What physically is going on? So initially, we're just going to gather all this information, and that's what I want you to do. If you're at this place of burnout, burnout doesn't define you. It's a terrible place to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not who you are. And we're going to start to do the rebuild. Well, awareness is first. What are my stressors? And then I need to create a plan for those. And I may need some outside help.
Yeah, yeah, and that's interesting because what you're saying are start to take steps. Number one,
I
take a
want you
few
to take
minutes
some
to
steps.
write them down, and then go. I mean, maybe there's some things you can deal with on your own. I get that, but I just seems like 9 times out of 10, even if it's just talking to someone, especially if you're dealing with a past issue, unforgiveness, bitterness, trauma, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's real
Yeah.
hard to dig yourself out of that by yourself, and I don't think it's always that wise. Just like if I think, well, I'll just go buy these vitamins and pop them. Well, if I haven't done the blood work, I don't know what I'm doing to my body. So,
Right.
so on all those paths, it seems like just starting to take step forwards is your way out of burnout. What happens to the person who hears this and doesn't take any kind of action?
Well, I see burnout as a ticking time bomb. Really, truly, something will eventually break. And for me, what eventually broke, because I just kept going. I guess you hear the type A. I think that was me. I just kept going and going and going. And for me, it was really probably more of some physical issues. I couldn't keep going. And I reached the point where you get up in the morning and you go, man, it takes energy just to breathe. I'm not doing well. So you don't need to do what I did. I waited way too long. And though this was a while back, I also learned I never want to go back to that. And so, I had to look at my nutrition. All right, I'm burned out, stressed out. What's going in my mouth?
Right.
Right? Because it's those 10, 12 cups of coffee a day. I'm not drinking any water, and I'm certainly not having breakfast. And I get home and I have that half gallon of ice cream. you know. So, but you get into this pattern nutritionally that can be destructive.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to point that out. A lot of times it is. It's what's going in up here, our mouth, and what we're putting in our bodies, because our bodies reflect that, as well as what we put in our ears, things, the voices we listen to, whether literal or sort of figurative. The way we look at the world. I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out. That's true with us. You mentioned your type of personality.
Yes, yes.
Are there personalities that are more prone to burnout than others?
Yes, I think there is. If you're a person and there's not any period of renewal in your life, and everything from you're not exercising, going for a walk, and you never stop, and a part of you kind of feels invincible, but there's an eventual price to pay. Something will happen. And so there's a personality type, and we hear the type A, and I think there's different styles of that. There are some that are more aggressive and verbally ambushing people. I was just more so consumed, and I had good intent. So a lot of times you get into burnout. My intent, I was passionate about what I was doing. I really had a good motivation, but I wasn't practicing what I was preaching. So that didn't work well.
Yeah, that's funny because my dad, as an evangelist for all these years, a lot of young evangelists would come to him, and we'd see somebody, sort of on the rise in popularity and very effective at what they're doing, reaching a lot of people with a lot of good things.
Yeah.
And I think my dad's top recommendation to them was don't learn to say no, don't overcommit.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the burnout aspect, because we see this in pastors all the time. And I
Yes.
think it's that positive motivation, that idea of I have to do good, we can even have religious stress placed on you, oh,
Yes.
I want to be told, well done, good and faithful servant, or the time is
Yes.
short, and we feel like the world's on our shoulders. I think the spiritual component can be just as destructive in a sense, if not. It's funny because what Scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God," and that
Right.
stillness isn't a quitting; it's a surrendering. Literally, in the old language, it's this surrendering things to God. And sometimes I think we think that God's put too much on us, and He literally
Hmm.
invented the Sabbath, a day of rest. So I totally hear you. Let me show people something real quick. You mentioned
Sure.
A Place of Hope. This is the website, aplaceofhope.com. And this is the center that Dr. Gregory Jantz works out of up in the beautiful state of Washington. I think he sticks the picture of a mountain with snow on it on the website there, just to make those of us flatlanders very jealous. Because
And I can look out my window
I know you.
on most days and see that.
I know. I think you tell me that every single interview, and I
Yeah.
love the mountains, so I
Yeah.
confess a bit of jealousy there. But you're getting people in there all the time,
Yes.
dealing with a wide range of things. When people listen to you and take these steps and take that assessment and then address the various stressors in their lives, I mean, is there a turnaround? We have to know that there's hope to do the work to get there, I think.
Yeah. And I think hope for ourselves comes when I know there's a plan.
Mm.
Part of what we do is we do things, we call it the whole person. So we're going to look at, okay, what do we need to do in the physical health? And that's part of what our doctors do. And that's why we do blood work. What do we need to do in our relationships? Am I in a abusive situation, or am I in a situation where I have been oppressed? What's going on um, in my life as far as relationships? I don't say that you run away from people, but we
Mm.
need to evaluate what's going on. We also want to look at, okay, what's my life purpose? Where am I supposed to go from here? I'm going to get better. A plan's going to be made for me. I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to have accountability. But there's also that bigger question: what's God's purpose? What am I supposed to do now with my life?
Yeah.
And when we have that sense of a purpose and that sense of a direction, we feel a lot of hope. But we will not feel that direction when we're burned out. We're going to feel more like a failure.
Yeah. And so you mentioned relationships. So I want to ask you about this because I know stress people can stress other people.
Yeah.
Can burnout people burn other people out?
Well, it's like a toxicity that people want to stay away from.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
hard to be close and have a close, uh, emotionally intimate relationship with somebody who's burned out because they're irritable, they're
Mm. Hmm.
impatient,
Yeah.
they're probably critical, they're judgmental. So it's hard to have a relationship with this person.
So maybe ask those you trust and that love you if they're seeing it. If you're suspecting maybe you're facing some of that, that should be motivation. I mean, if
Yeah,
for our loved ones to deal with this. Okay, you talk about one of the points in here I want to hit on because I think this is important.
sure.
You talk about reducing the noise in our lives, and I think we all go through
Yeah.
periods sometimes of reevaluating, going, you know what, some of these things I've been worried about, I've been investing my time and energy into, really aren't that important. What do you mean by the noise in our lives?
Sometimes it's clutter. There's a clutter of noise. There's a clutter of, oh, well, I'm subscribing to 50 different things in social media and I'm engrossed in it and I'm
Hmm.
pulled into it every day. So removing some of the distractions, removing some of the time that just eats so much time. I did a book also on social media and depression. Everybody who's depressed, the more time they spend on social media, the more depressed they become. So it's not the solution. So, but what's all the noise in your life? Am I trying? There's a point sometimes where I'm trying to do too much,
Yeah.
and it's hurting me. Or I have unrealistic perfectionistic expectations. I'm a perfectionist and I create a lot of stress for myself and people around me.
Yeah.
So those are some things to look at.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, a lot of times the things that are good things can be the things that can burn us out.
Yes.
I'm on the worship team at our church, and I rotate,
Yes.
meaning I can say no, which is a
Right,
beautiful
right.
thing, because like Christmas, when Christmas hit, they were like, "Hey, can you do 5 serve?" I'm like, "No, my family's coming to my house. I'm just going to sit with them." And
Yeah.
I've not always said no, and I've
Right.
experienced how that can burn you out, and then that's where it starts to impact your loved ones. When I'm doing too much. So yeah, reducing the noise. That's so simple and yet so profound for a lot of people. All right, last thing I
Well,
want
Randy,
to.
you said it
Go ahead.
well when you said about I have to learn to say no to certain things
Yeah,
and be discerning to know
yeah,
what I need to say no to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even good things, and that's the hard part
Hmm.
again for
That's
a
right.
lot of people. All right,
Yeah.
you have 5 in the book. By the way, this is the book Beyond Burnout. In case you're listening, going, okay, I need to get this book because I
Oh,
want
yes.
to deal with this. There it is. You can get it at a
And
placeofhope.com. You can
by
get
the
it
way,
at
it's a
Amazon.
small book because if you're burned out, it's hard to concentrate.
That's a good point. Well, it's a small
Yeah.
book because you don't need. I don't need the full academic, physical, and psychological
No.
study on this. I just need some
Yeah.
help, and that's what I love
Yeah.
about this. Is it just helps. In
Yeah.
it, you talk about 5 categories of restoration.
Mm.
Touch on 1 or 2 of those because
Oh,
again,
sure.
I love to like the name of your place, a place of hope. I really want people to understand that there is hope for them. There is restoration possible.
Yes. And I think in terms of restart and restoration, sometimes I have to pause what I'm doing and refresh and restore. So, one area of restoration, and I always see it as one that's going to help the quickest, is how I'm taking care of myself physically. And I know I've already mentioned that, but restoration, okay, what do I need to do? As simple as it is, when you're burned out, you're probably not drinking enough water.
Hmm.
Part of my restoration is, and I'm reaching over here, my water's over here. I know, and I've got to have it in front of me. Water improves mood, improves concentration, improves blood pressure, a lot of benefits. But when I'm stressed out, when I'm burned out, I tend to decrease water and I'm back on all those stimulants and energy drinks and coffee, etc. So I just want you to begin with some baby steps of restoration. And I know sometimes there's not an appetite, but I'm going to put enough protein in my body in the morning if it's something simple as a protein drink or a yogurt, but I'm going to begin to nurture my body.
Hmm.
I'm going to look at sleep. We do sleep studies on so many of our clients because your sleep is disruptive and you're not. So I'm going to have good sleep hygiene. I'm going to start working on going to bed at a certain time. and I'm just going to start resetting my circadian rhythms. Yeah, it's going to take a month or so, but it's going to be worth it. So think in terms of restoration is a rebuilding, but I'm doing it by baby steps, and those will add up.
And obviously you're working in the mental health area with the physical health
Yes.
there too. But okay, and the water is actually the older I get, the bigger a deal that is. I can tell.
I know.
I can tell
Yeah,
I'm
I hear you.
living dehydrated, right? But it's interesting because the scripture talks about it. Itself uses the water metaphor a lot, the water of life. Is there a spiritual sort of reset that you put people on that leads to a restoration? So yes, maybe I should drink more water, but maybe I should. I don't know. What do you do? Just pray more, because that feels empty to a lot of people when you say things like that.
Maybe I'm gonna take an old-fashioned 3x5 card. Just happen to have one right here in my drawer. Okay. And maybe what I need to do is, one simple Bible promise. The Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind.
Sound mind.
Okay, sound mind. I'm going to write that down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to carry it in my pocket, my purse, and I'm going to pull that out 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. I'm going to say God's word out loud. Just going to say that out loud. For God hasn't given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak that. I just want you to begin to renew the mind and speak the truth. You can have a sound mind. Yeah, God promises it. Let's work on that.
Mm-hmm. I
But
love.
something as simple as sometimes it's one verse,
Yeah.
and I'm going to use the same verse every day for a week, and
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is. But and I'm going to say it out loud.
Well, I love about your approach. This is why I like having you on. It's because I think too often when we deal with things, we think, okay, I just need to drink more water, and you may, right? Or I may need to get more exercise, and you may. But when you don't hit all of the areas, when you don't realize I may need to work through the process of forgiveness with someone, then doing one will give you a little improvement for a period of time, but it really doesn't solve the issue. Likewise, you talk to your pastor, he may be like, you just need to pray more. Well, you may need to pray more, but you also may need to get more exercise. So it really dealing with the body, the mind, and the spirit, the whole. The only way to get to wholeness is to deal with the whole self. And I know
And the
you
whole
guys,
person.
yeah. So I would just encourage anyone who's watching to really do what Dr. Jantz is saying and write down those stressors and then deal with all of them holistically. I mean, that's got to be the only way we're ever going to get through these things, right?
It is. And allow the time. So, you get past 30 days, you go, wow, I am doing a little better. But get past that 90-day mark. We won't do it perfectly, and there'll be frustrations. And if I'm really not getting it together by then, I probably need to seek some additional help. I probably need to, maybe it's humbling myself a bit and go, okay, I need to get some expert help along the way, and do that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a mental health counselor who really understands this. Maybe I need something a little more extensive. But don't stay stuck. And if you're recycling, not getting out of it, then that means you're stuck.
Somebody needed to hear that because they thought, well, I'm doing better, but then you're not doing better, but then you're doing better, and then you're not doing better. Yeah, that's great. All right. Dr. Jantz, again, I appreciate your input. The idea of hope at the end of this, I think, is really got to be stressed because people, it is hard work sometimes. It is work, at least. But those steps, one at a time, just take one today, start down that path, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever you start down that path, and then you can address them. It's how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? But
and you know what? I have to work on this. I'm not sharing this today to tell you I'm perfect at it. No, I have to be aware of this. I have to be aware of schedule, commitments. How am I doing nutritionally?
Yeah.
I have to be really aware of this.
If you need that first step, you can pick up Beyond Burnout wherever you get books. Go to aplaceofhope.com. I did see it over on Amazon. I'm sure there's some Christian retailers that have it as well. Christian book maybe. But just take a step, people. Take a step. Dr. Jantz, thank you. Appreciate your time, your energy, and your passion, which you still have, and sharing it with people today. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Good to be with you.
Appreciate you guys out there watching. If you know someone who's dealing with this, lovingly forward it and say, hey, maybe these steps can help you. And if you need to take those steps, start taking them. Take them today. Appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't liked, follow, or subscribed, I invite you to do that. You'll get more notifications of hopefully informational and some inspiration here. Get you moving. We'll see you again next time here on Life Today Live.